Hey guys, I'm Zach with 9 to 5 Tactical, and today we're doing a review over the HK VP9. Before we start our video, we want to thank Aura for sponsoring our video today. There are so many leaks that people have no idea how to protect themselves anymore. And this puts them at credit fraud and identity theft. Data brokers are always collecting data and selling your information. Aura offers data monitoring and will notify you quickly if it detects personal information has been compromised and will help you resolve any potential fraud threats. Plus, their app can encrypt your Wi-Fi and protect your phone and computer from malware. Aura offers 14-day trial and can cancel whenever you want. Sign up with the link down in the description below if you want to help support our channel. Just like our first impression video, this is actually Brandon's first gun he ever bought when he first started shooting back in 2020. And we wanted to do a review over it. If you haven't seen our first impression video, make sure to go check that out. The VP9 has an overall length of 7.34 inches with a width of 1.32 inches. It is a striker-fired pistol chambered in 9mm. It has a cold hammer forged barrel and a mag capacity of 17 rounds. The trigger pull weight is about 5.4 pounds and it weighs approximately 25.5 ounces. The VP9 has an MSRP of $7.99. What's in the hard case? We got the VP9. We have the optics ready version with the Siley Ghost red dot, 2 17 round magazines, interchangeable back straps, interchangeable grip panels. It also comes with a locking key and an owner's manual. As always, the first category is going to be out of the box value, and what that means is what is the value of everything that comes with the firearm. Out of the box, it is pretty standard for what you get. You can still carry this case to the range, but unfortunately you might need to take another case or bag for all the extra stuff that you'll be needing to go to the range. And also another point I knocked off is that it doesn't come with 3 mags. I would like a 3rd mag just for the price value of this set that we have here.
So just to harp on it a little more, like Zach said, we took a point away for only having 2 magazines. We always want at least 3. We believe that should be the industry standard. And another point was actually from the box. One thing you notice here is that this box actually does not have any lock holes for you to even like take on an airplane or travel or like that. This box has like no function other than just taking it home or from the store, pretty much. You know, this is one of those boxes where you take everything out of it, lock it away and throw it away, or even like put it in storage like how people say to do. So that kind of gave us a really low value for the out of the box score. Just quick PSA, we do get a lot of comments on our YouTube channel about whether the out of the box value should hold that much power regarding the score of the overall firearm. Reminder guys, it's only 1/10 of the score. It's really not marginally that large of an impact. Secondly, when it comes to everything that comes out of the box, we do notice there's a big persuasion point when it comes to like having extra magazines or having a range bag come with it, and it really doesn't actually even increase the value of the firearm itself. Like for example, Staccato, they in 2024 they no longer give you 3 magazines. They used to give you 2 17 rounds and a 20 round. As of 2024, they only give you 2 17 rounds magazines, and on top of that, they actually increased their price too. So really, giving us extra magazines does not increase the price for what they sell to their clients or to us, people as a buyer. So that's really not even an argument. But just quick PSA, guys, it's only 1/10 of the score.
So with that being said, I gave this category an 8, Brandon gave this category an 8, and Dominic gave this category an 8 also.
This category, ergonomics. Ergonomics is really just kind of how everything feels in your hand, how's the grip texture, grip placement, as well as controls. Is it tactile and functional for you? Starting at the top, we have the front and rear serrations. They are there. They can be used. They do grab on a little bit, but they're really not that aggressive. I feel like I have to squeeze a little bit more than other guns with more aggressive serrations I've used in the past. Also at the rear of the slide, there are paddles back here to help you rack the slide using the rear. Moving down to the side, we have the slide release. The slide release is ambidextrous and protrudes and is easy to defeat. Fully ambidextrous, mind you, that it's on left side at a pretty decent size, on the right side about the same size. The slide release placement is also really good, so if you're less in doubt and on the smaller side, it is still possible to defeat. Mag release, it's also ambidextrous. The one we have is a paddle release. If you're not a fan of that like me, you can also swap out or get a different VP9 model that has a more traditional mag release button at no additional cost. The reason I'm not a fan of the paddles is just for me, it may be a training issue, but I could not release the magazine without breaking my grip just a little bit. Down further, we have the grip texture. The grip texture is not that aggressive. I feel it could be a little bit more aggressive. On humid days or hands where it was a little sweaty, I felt sometimes my grip would slip a little bit. And if you're like me and run a higher grip, you'll be left wishing that the texture ran all the way to the top of the slide. I do understand that the gun is made for concealed carry, but I feel that they could have done a little bit more on the grip texture and still be comfortable for concealed carry. This, however, is one of the very few fully ambidextrous pistols out there where being a lefty does not put you at a disadvantage. To further elaborate, most pistols I've seen are ambidextrous but heavily favor right-handed shooters, partially ambidextrous where it's either just the mag release or the slide release, but not both. And what I like to call pseudo-ambi is where you have to manually swap the controls around to make it left-hand compatible and not right-hand both.
Next thing I want to highlight was actually the grip panels. So the great part about the VP9 is that it actually has interchangeable grip panels not only for the back strap but the sides here as well for the right and the left. That means you actually have sizes from small, medium, and large all around. You can interchange however you wanted. So you can really contour this gun to your hand specifically, which I think that's pretty awesome in my opinion. And last thing I want to highlight the paddle release for the magazine. The magazine release, unlike the other guys, I actually prefer the paddle. So I have small hands on the channel, so I actually can't reach the button that easily. If there was a button there, I'm actually to break my grip pretty far just to reach it. Now for the paddle, I don't actually need to do that. On the other side, since it's fully ambidextrous, I just take my trigger finger, and you can see here where it moves, I can just hit it with my trigger finger, no problem. Now, even for my wife as well, she actually just uses her middle finger on her primary hand. It just does that, and it just drops, no problem. This is actually more beneficial towards us. So if you actually have smaller hands like my wife and I, then perhaps the paddle is probably more for you.
For ergonomics, I give it a 9, Zach gave it a 9, and Brent also gave it a 9.
For the next category, we're going to talk about the trigger. So we believe the trigger is actually probably one of the most, if not the most, fundamental part of the firearm itself, especially when it comes to purchasing a firearm. Everything could feel amazing on the gun itself, then you get to the trigger, and you're like, wow, that could make or break your purchase right there and then. So with that being said, I want to get into how the VP9 actually has an amazing trigger, probably the smoothest right out of the box. The trigger pull weight sits at 5.4 pounds. At least that's what it says on the HK website. I've read on forums about how some people get anywhere between 6 all the way down to even the low 4s. As for the reset, it has a very loud and tactile click to it, so I'll reset here for you right now. Boom, very loud. So another thing about this though is that it actually has a very positive reset as well. We talked about this in the first impressions video, but what we mean by that is that when you do the reset, it actually wants to push your finger up off the trigger. It actually pushes it forward with a lot more force than what we're used to on the channel shooting other firearms. We think that's pretty nice, but I think it's also for experienced shooters that kind of be a little bit detrimental. We found us getting a lot of trigger freezes trying to move back to that original reset point, and we kept having the trigger actually like push our finger past that and then having to slam back on it. So it kind of induces us to slap the trigger more than find like a fine reset. So I just want to point that out for the VP9 trigger, that the reset is very, very positive. So either way, us as shooters on the range, we didn't have too many issues with the trigger though, other than the occasional trigger freeze due to that reset. One more thing I want to bring up was the trigger safety. There is a safety on this trigger. Normally I tend to not like trigger safeties at all, but for the VP9 I had zero issues with it. I mean, I think the curve trigger on there actually really guides your finger to the right spot every single time. There's really no way for you to mess that up in my opinion. We didn't have any issues with pulling the trigger. Like it went back when we wanted to every single time, is what I'm trying to say. So I just want to highlight that regarding the trigger. We think it was very nice. That being said, I gave it a 9 out of 10. Zach gave it a 9 out of 10. And Dominic also gave it a 9 out of 10.
Next category is going to be sights and optics. So we're going to be talking about the front and rear sight and an option to mount a red dot. So here in the VP9, we have a bright yellow front sight and a blacked out rear sight. So we actually, on the channel, the three of us really do like the blacked out rear sights because the normal 2 dots in the back here are actually harder to pick up and try to line your sights. So that's why we love the blacked out rears. On here, we have the HK optics footprint. Unfortunately, the VP9 does not have any direct mounting options besides mounting the Holosun SES red dots. So if you wanted to mount another optic, you have to go online to order another plate that takes the same footprint as the optic that you'd like to put on top.
Like Zach mentioned, the only option for direct mounting is the Holosun SES, which means you have to get a plate for any other optic you wish to run. So if you add a mounting or optic plate, it does potentially increase, well, it actually does increase the risk of failure by adding an extra step in between. Not only that, something that seems to deter people when they want to get a red dot for the pistol, ultimately is the cost. Now, if you're selling someone, you should get a red dot for their pistol, that's already a couple $100 for a quality red dot. Now you have to get a plate, which I believe these plates run you between an additional $40 to $50 from what I've seen on HK's website. So additional cost and additional point of failure. The Holosun SCS was developed by Holosun to fit specifically for the HK VP9. It didn't come from HK's innovation, so Holosun did have to create a workaround just to mount optic.
So with that being said, I gave this category a 9, Brandon gave this category a 9, and Dominic gave this category an 8.
Next category we have are magazines. Obviously, what are to talk about the magazines? Obviously the housing, indicators, and how much it can hold for its size. So HK's VP9 magazines are made out of steel with a plastic base plate. HK does offer 17, 15, or 10 capacity magazines for those who have freedoms that are infringed. You can additionally get extended 20, 24, or 25 round magazines as well. I'm also a huge supporter for round indicators. Now, for the HK, they skip the first 3 rounds, but after that, it's all round indicators from 4 to 17 or 4 to 20 for the 20 round ones. That's something I'm a huge fan of. Now, we didn't face any issues with reliability from the magazines that we could find out there. We did have a malfunction, but we couldn't determine if that was from the magazine or not.
Something I want to highlight on the magazines was actually the base pads. So normally we knock a point off because there's not metal construction. Obviously the ones on the VP9 are plastic, so we did not knock a point off because the ones on here are so strong, has a very good plastic construction on there. We've done many reload drills. Even myself, I owned this gun for 4 years. We've dropped this on the concrete, rocks, dirt, everything, and it shows literally no sign of wear on it. If you look closely on the magazines for here, there's actually more wear marks on the metal housing than there is on the plastic base pads, which we found to be, which I found to be very impressive. So this time around, I did not knock a point off for having plastic base pads just because they're so good.
With that, I gave it a 10, Zach gave it a 10, and Brendan also gave it a 10.
Next category we're talking about is the felt recoil. So we believe that this is actually a fundamental big reason why people would purchase a firearm. For the felt recoil itself, the ergonomics, the trigger, everything about the gun could feel perfect to you. And you take it to the range for the first time, and also you realize how much it kicks in your hands. And you may not like that. That can really be a huge deal breaker. So we made one of our categories felt recoil. So as far as felt recoil for the VP9, we believe it, or I believe it, to be quite snappy compared to other firearms we've had in the past. I don't know if that means it's a slight oversprung. The reason why I say that is because when you're trying to actuate the slide, just pulling it back and forth, I can definitely tell it's a little bit tighter than other firearms that I've shot in the past and whatnot. But now that also means that it has a faster cycle rate. So the felt recoil is a little snappy, but one thing I want to highlight was that it actually has a very fast return to zero. What I mean by that is that when you induce felt recoil, you feel a huge kick going back to your hands or your palms, inducing the muzzle to rise. Now, for the fast return to zero, you'll realize that since it's going to cycle so fast, that it actually immediately goes right back down to where it was. So it'll really put up and go right back down. So the pro for that is that you are ready for the next shot immediately. The con for that is that you probably aren't going to be shooting the gun very flat to show off on Instagram. Now, since the recoil is so harsh, we do believe that over time, you're shooting like a class setup, maybe 500 rounds around an entire day. You're definitely going to get a lot more fatigue shooting a gun like this as a harsher recoil than a gun like, for example, maybe like the Staccato or something like that, where it has a very soft recoil feeling. That being said, I gave this a 7 out of 10, and both Zach and Dominic gave this an 8 out of 10.
So next category is going to be weapon handling, and with that it's going to be very similar to our other category called ergonomics, but this is everything, so utilizing all the functions out on the range. Here in the VP9, I do like how there's ambidextrous controls here. I am able to hit the paddle with my index finger and my middle finger, but I am not able to hit it with my thumb when getting a full purchase on the gun. I just can't hit it. I've been training with a button mag release my whole life, so I think being able to train with the paddle shifters for a while, I am able to be as quick as I am with the button release here. Going to the slide release, the slide release is really long. I do like how much area you get to be able to hit it, but I do wish that it was more of a ledge to be able to hit, because sometimes I think if you get really sweaty fingers, you'll be able to just slide right off, and I do wish it was a little bit more protruded. Going to grip texture, I do think the grip texture is a little less aggressive to our tasting. I did find myself slipping a little bit when going out on a hot range day. So with that being said, we had to throw chalk on and be able to get a better purchase on the grip. The grip texture is really soft and not as aggressive as we'd like. We did have the gun slipping out of our hands a little bit when it got super hot, and had the required grip after shooting long strings of fire.
I actually really enjoyed the side controls on the VP9. One, because they're fully ambidextrous. Here on the right side of the gun for left hand shooters is actually a full length lever here that you can press down to drop the slide, as well as the mag release here is ambidextrous, just like as on the left side of the gun here for right hand shooters. So it's very ergonomically friendly for all shooters, from left-handed shooters to right-handed shooters. As you can see down here, there is no flared magwell. Obviously this is made for concealed carry, so a flared magwell wasn't really intended for a civilian use purpose. On a normal case basis, most of the time civilians in a self-defense situation will not be reloading. However, I feel like a flared magwell would be nice. I'm not dogging points for this, just something to note that, you know, if you had a malfunction, you had to reload under stress, you would definitely be more consistent if there was a flared magwell.
So the one thing I wanted to highlight on the VP9, kind of putting towards weapon handling, would actually be the round indicator. So HK has in the manual, there's actually a round indicator right here on the ejector, where if the round's in there, it should pop out just a little bit, showing a little red line there right on the top of the ejector. Now, even here with the W round, racking one in there, there actually is no real indication there showing that there is a red line. It's very, very small, very minimal. Honestly, pretty hard to tell is actually even around in there or not. The only best way to really tell is to actually press check. Who knew, right? Press checks. So, just wanted to bring that up here on my weapon handling score, that the round indicator does not really work that well. It does have a striker indicator though, at least, showing that the striker is pulled back, but does not tell you there's a round in the chamber.
And with that being said, the three of us gave a score of 8 out of 10.
Next is comfort and concealability. Now, I think this is a very important part to our review, as most of these pistols we're reviewing might be a contender for your EDC choice. The VP9 is a full size, so it's not going to be comfortable as a compact or micro. However, for it being a full size, I found it rather comfortable. Now, I did carry a Staccato on a normal basis, so anything's generally more comfortable than this, but, you know, something I noticed is that with this pistol, I am able to kneel down, tie my shoes, or pick something I dropped off the ground. However, the grip length is still very long, so keep that in mind. If you're wearing medium-sized shirts, you might have to wear something a little bit baggier or heavier. Now, I did run this with the Harry's holsters without a weapon light. Very easy to conceal. I think the Harry's holsters did a good job. I also ran the EDC Core Essentials belt. Now, take that in consideration. Your setup might be different, and the VP9 may or may not be as comfortable for you, depending on what your EDC setup is. Shout out to Harry's Holsters for setting out the infiltrator for us to use. We found it to be very comfortable, and it didn't print at all. The design with the built-in wing was very nice, and yeah, just nothing but good things to say about it. With that being said, all of us did give this category a 9 out of 10.
Next category is going to be aftermarket support. So just like everyone else, we like to tinker with our firearms, and the options out there for aftermarket support are pretty important. So the VP9 actually has quite a bit of options out there. They let you mill it, stipple it, make slide cuts, optic cuts for if you didn't get the optic graded version. I mean, so many different options out there, including even like rubberized grip pads you can put over the top of here if you want to stick to it, as well as like aluminum or brass rear grip panels if you want to swap that out too. Only issues I have found when it came to aftermarket support was one, the lower frame here is polymer. Due to the serial number setup on it, you actually cannot swap the lower grip for a all metal housing if you wanted to. Unfortunately, you won't have that option when it comes to the HK VP9. The other thing I want to bring up was that there isn't a true flared magwell available online. There are flared magwells that they advertise, but there isn't actually a true magwell. What I mean by that is because whenever you add on aftermarket support, if you read into it a little more with forums, it doesn't actually eliminate these lips that are on here. It kind of makes a cover over it, but it still has the lips right here protrude out, so when you're actually trying to put a magazine in, it's still like caught like this or so in there, trying to go in. And you don't really want that when you actually buy a true flared magwell. So that being said, aftermarket support, I gave it an 8 out of 10, Dominic gave it an 8 out of 10, and Zach gave it a 9 out of 10.
So for the last category is price. So what that means is $800 for the gun worth it? I think the VP9 is a good gun to train with, but I think $800 for the price point is a little bit high compared to other firearms in its area for the size and performance. I do love the adjustable grip panels it has, and it's a great option for left-handed shooters as it is fully ambidextrous on both sides. For how much you pay for and what you get out of the box, I do wish it comes with one, if not two, optic plates to be able to mount an optic of your choosing, either an RMR or an RMSC, and at least one more magazine.
Something I want to highlight regarding the price point of this firearm, for the optic ready versions, like we said before, the VP9 does not have an option to direct mount. Now Holosun did bring out the SCS that would direct mount to the HK footprinter or whatever it is. So Holosun did bring an option that allows you to do it, but I find it to be more innovation on Holosun's side, not H&K's side. So in reality, if you wanted to mount in red dot to the VP9, you had to pay an additional $40 to $60. That would actually make this a $860 gun on the high end. So no longer just $800, it's actually $860. So that's something that I wanted to note when you buy the VP9.
I do believe the VP9 is priced a bit steep for, I would say, kind of losing its edge over the competition. I do understand that it's a fully ambidextrous gun, which there isn't really many on the market yet, but a lot of guns coming out are starting to become fully ambidextrous. I do also understand that the grip panels, there's 27 different configurations, so it is fits many type of pistol. However, the price is $800 and a bunch of new things coming out, while HK has not really updated the VP9 for a long time. So I do believe the edge over its competition, the VP9 is losing it. But I do understand the price you're paying for is that HK name and reliability.
So with that being said, Dominic and I both gave this 7 out of 10 and Brandon gave this a 6 out of 10 for pricing. For our total points, Brandon had 83, Dominic had 84, and I had 86, averaging out to be 84.33. For our final thoughts, we think the VP9 is a good and reliable pistol. It is a solid option if you have an extra $800. We did run over 1,000 rounds between the three of us, and we only had one malfunction in the past month. Brandon's also had this gun for 4 years now, and that's the only malfunction he's ever had. Note, the gun wasn't lubed up before we started reviewing it, so that's the only track record that we have, and I think that's pretty solid. We love the modularity of the grip panels and the ambidextrous features that we have here for you wrong-handed shooters and you small-handed people. Well, that's all we have for you today on the VP9 review. If you like what you saw, please like, share, subscribe, and also hit that bell notification to stay up to date with our latest content. Also, if you love watching these gun reviews, please leave a comment down below of what other firearms you'd like to see next in the future. And with that being said, please get out and get good. We'll catch you next one.